worried about it.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to today's RD to RD live show. This is a topic that is pretty near and dear to my heart: email newsletters, email marketing. Yvette Quantz is going to, did I say that right? Is it Quantz?
Yvette Quantz, yep.
Is joining me today. And before really giving her the opportunity to introduce herself and tell us more about kind of her journey to really develop a special skill set in regards to email marketing and creating newsletters, a little bit of background about the RD to RD live show. I'm really excited because 2019, I have a full year of doing these Facebook Lives. I actually do them now every other week. I did 25 in 2018, and it's really been the highlight of kind of, as an online business owner, it gets a little lonely at times. Maybe we'll go to a conference and network, you're on social media, but that opportunity to connect face to face here, although it's over Zoom with an expert like Yvette, and also with you who tune into the show, is personally one of the things that I enjoy most. So thank you for being here, and thank you to the many guests that have already been on the show and the ones that I'm already booking out. This is really a lot of fun for me. So, but it's not about me gushing about being live. It's about sharing information. So a little housekeeping. We take questions from the audience. So if you have a burning question about email marketing, about anything from MailChimp, go ahead and drop it in. If it looks like one we're going to answer, I'll kind of make a note of that and we'll come back to it. But the whole point is for you also to get your question answered. So, Yvette, give us a little bit, tell us about yourself and the work that you do and kind of how it segued you into this expertise.
Yeah, great. Thank you. I'm so excited to be here today. So I am a registered dietitian. My background is actually in sports nutrition. So before I went into private practice, I worked in a fitness center and I worked with a lot of athletes there. During that time, I actually saw that the importance of the RD branding themselves and the RD connecting with their clients. I also saw the surge. So this is like 10, 12 years ago. I saw the surge of like nutrition experts emailing, growing their business through emailing. Like at the time, it might have been the Oxygen, the clean eating girl, Toscarino. So, and it hit me that that is always going to be there, but I still believe that people always want to work with people. And that's kind of how customized nutrition newsletters evolve, because during that time when I was working in the fitness center, I built relationships with my clients, and I learned that every time I was able to send a newsletter to them, they loved it. And I always got referrals. I always got great feedback. Maybe they came back for another session. But as the practice grew and life demands grew, I didn't have the time to be consistent. So then when we moved from Dallas to Lafayette in 2008, and I know some people have already heard this story, but I'm sharing it for all the new people. But when we moved, that's when I decided not only did I start my own private practice, food therapy, but I also started this concept of customized nutrition newsletters. So as a dietitian, because I am a dietitian first, I practice with intuitive eating now, helping clients with non-diet approach, and it's not as heavy in the sports nutrition. And really, I don't even have that many clients. I don't really seek clients as much anymore, but that's where my background is and how it's evolved. And now I'm very creative just by nature. Like that so I created the Foodspirations product line. Started that back in 2010. Every year I'd write an inspirational card. And it was actually designed for me to give my clients. And then it evolved into other RDs being able to purchase it and brand it for themselves. So those are kind of the different things that I do.
Nice. Good. Yeah, I actually, I think that's interesting. You and I think, have a shared love of technology and looking and saying there's a problem and there's kind of a solution from a technology angle that I created for myself, but how can I then take what I've learned and make that, something that, one, I can monetize, because learning how to run our business and creating tools that are valuable for us, there's that opportunity to, monetize that, which is kind of a win-win for both. So we're
Absolutely.
gonna,
I love what
yes.
you're doing with RD to RD. And as we talked earlier, and this is a side note, but I'm hoping to get some of my stuff on there soon, because I love to create. I mean, like, if you put me in a hole and I would create, that's
Yes.
probably.
For those of you who don't know, Yvette was mentioning Foodspiration. She has a shop on Etsy where she sells her products. So I always think it's interesting to learn about people. I've learned other dietitians sell things on Etsy, sometimes completely unrelated to nutrition even. Sometimes that creative outlet. It's nice to connect over that. So let's dive into the topic of newsletters, and we're going to start basic and then get a little bit more granular, and even maybe doing some screen shares. We'll kind of see how kind of our interview develops. So as a private practice owner, which I think you alluded to, but let's talk more specifically, what's the purpose of a nutrition newsletter? And the reason why I ask is there's a million things we have to be doing. I'm a practice owner too, and it's the value of that. Why should it rank higher than some of the other, aspects of business?
Absolutely. That's a wonderful question. So why I think a newsletter should be implemented by every dietitian practice is because there's a few reasons. One, people are bombarded with nutrition information every day. They come in to have a session with you. They have said that they are ready to work with a registered dietitian, the nutrition expert, and help with their whatever's going on. After they leave your office, you could have had the most fantastic session ever. After they leave their office, they're going to get hit by advertisers and promotions and everyone else. They're going to drive down the street and they're going to see the doctor who's selling some new nutrition product. They are going to be hit constantly with people offering nutrition services. We know that the services that happen in our private practice are much different than a meal delivery service or something like that. So one, you want to have a newsletter so that you can have that way of constantly staying connected.
Top of mind, right?
Top of mind, to create that top of mind awareness. They could have had the best session of their life with you, but they're going to get busy, right, and they might forget.
Right.
Oh, I really liked her, but what was her name again? What was her practice? Or you hope that doesn't happen, but people get bombarded and get busy.
Right. So you do stay in their inbox, then
if you're in their inbox, even if it's just, and I know we're going to go transition and you have a bunch of questions to ask, so I hope I don't overtake, but even if you just start with a simple monthly newsletter, you're just getting that little bit. If you can't do any more than that, you're just being a little touch point. Right. You're letting them know. Also, you're letting them know you're still there. Because I know a few, probably 2 years ago, like, oh, I want to redesign some website stuff. I really liked the people who did it a few years before that, but I haven't heard from them. I haven't seen them on internet. Are they still around?
Right.
And
just because I think they get on your list perhaps. And I do this same thing where, I maybe signed up for a list and I got distracted, but that person stays top of mind. And when that idea comes in my head, I remember that person because they've been consistently I may not have opened every one of their emails. I think we get caught up in open rates, and ultimately your name is still showing up in their inbox. They haven't unsubscribed to you. So clearly they don't mind getting your content, that kind of that you're still adding value.
Doing the work you do. I mean, I ran into this probably a year ago, someone I met a long time ago. Are you still doing that nutrition thing? And I'm like, that's like my work.
Yes, that nutrition thing.
So that they kind of know that it's your business.
And when they do, and I think this idea of when clients are already working with you, but also many of us are using opt-ins, right? We're growing our email list with free downloads or webinars or whatever, tip sheets that then, that invitation to enter their email box that by sending regular emails over time, you're starting to build that relationship. So I think we kind of, but there's all this focus on putting all this stuff out on social media, and maybe you start to grow your email list and you don't really start emailing them right away. And because maybe your list isn't very big, but that gap between someone signing up and having a regular process for communicating, making sure that, your list doesn't need to be a certain size to start using it. One person is great.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I had under 30 people when I first started. The difference between social media and your e-newsletter list is in social media, you're building a community. You're like having conversations like this. But in your email newsletter list, that is where you're having that one-on-one connection piece where you can let them know about webinars you're doing. Let them know about products you're doing. On social media, the sale does not necessarily happen.
Right.
And so you really need both.
And that's actually really, really good piece of information right there. That you're that individualized kind of, one-to-one building that relationship over email. So let's kind of talk specific. Can you give an example of how you used nutrition newsletters kind of in your own practice? You alluded to it a bit, and business results that you attributed to that specifically. We've kind of been dancing around this one.
Yes. So I just think it's the referrals and the people coming back to schedule an appointment I guess that's the short answer to the last question you had of how has it impacted your business? I think just that top of the mind awareness, getting people, I send out usually a special like holiday newsletter that's more of a message type of thing, more of a line of my foodspiration. And the response is getting back from people who I haven't heard from or seen in a long time. They still like hearing from me.
Right.
And so that's huge. As far as, what was the first part of your question?
Your kind of how you use them in your own practice and
because my practice has evolved to where the private practice is not a predominant part of my business, but I still use it as a way to share information on a monthly basis. So I send out a newsletter with the service I provide, so customized nutrition newsletters. I pre-write an intro letter, an article, recipe, quote, a complimentary mini article. So I'll send that on a monthly basis. So it's giving them the touch point factor. It's giving them a little personal intro, something that's relevant nutrition-wise, and then a recipe that they can actually use.
So everyone who's tuning in, we're gonna talk about kind of that template of, I don't know, for me, when I first sat down to start writing an email newsletter, I just stare at the screen and I go, okay, one, who am I talking to? And it feels weird because you're emailing a group, yet you want to connect individually, and it feels a little awkward. Once I kind of got a template, right, got a structure for, okay, I'm going to include a vendor spotlight, and then I'm going to have a few products, and then I'm going to tell a little bit of a personal story. It gets easier, but golly, those first few months of kind of getting a structure in place was not pleasant. It took a lot more time. And I think that's a challenge. And I think that's one of the nice things about the tool you built is you have it set up where you can just kind of plug in the content.
Yes. And we'll share that at the end. We want to make sure we focus on, right. We talked about this yesterday, unless anyone's requesting for me to share that part, but want to make sure to address the why a newsletter, the how to a newsletter. I can screen share whenever you're ready.
So let's kind of stop there a little bit. I think there's this term, and it makes email marketing a little bit unfriendly, is the word marketing in there, that somehow this email is a value email. This email is a promotional email. That we want to kind of categorize them well. I don't want to be salesy in this message, and I don't want to do, that. How do you kind of weave the two of those together? Because for me, that was a big stumbling block of making sure that I'm providing value. And if someone's reading it, if it's really clicking with them, making sure that they know what to do to take action, right? How to take
Absolutely.
the next step. And you're, rather than, sending, a big promo. I mean, I guess there's thoughts on that, how you're.
That's a great, so one is making sure the service, the newsletter you're providing is giving value. So if you're just sending out emails that, oh, I made a horrible mistake, I'm going to share this confession. Back in the early days of my business, and when I was like starting Foodspirations as well. So this is back probably 2010. I had clients and they were used to getting from me my nutrition newsletter. So they were used to getting the valuable information. Well, one day everything's trial and error. And one day I put together, like, it was a pure sales email. Like, there was nothing personal about it. It was sharing all the products I had going on in Foodspirations. That was the most like unsubscribes I got. I was horrified, actually, after I sent it. I can now share the story because it was so long ago.
Yeah.
But that's what you don't want to do.
Right.
Is just send. And I remember after I was like, that was just so not a good move.
Right. And I think it's like there's this way of thinking. I was thinking you build up this give value, and somehow you get this bank of, well, now I can sell to you. And I don't really think that's a good way to think about email marketing. We were talking the other day that really thinking that when someone joins your email list, it's almost as if they've invited you into their living room, so that you wouldn't walk into someone's living room and go, well, we've been, I've had them over for dinner, a few times. Now I'm going to try to sell them these products. That you are building a relationship. So rather than thinking about it as, I've provided X amount of value, now it's okay to sell to them, that you're really interlacing the, here's how I can help you. Here's why I continue to be a good value or a good, why I deserve to be in your inbox. Then if you want more information.
In retrospect, an email like I sent should have been more of, hey, I've been sharing nutrition content for all these years. I just want to share with you, my new product line, like my new, it's more of a hobby, I call it. It's more just my creative outlet.
Right.
But it's something I love and I want to share with you. And instead of featuring all the products, I should have just talked about one and then moved on to talking more about something that they would have wanted to know.
Right. Their value.
And that's with,
yes,
all of our listeners are thinking about, and how can they do it? It's the same way. It's just not giving a blast email with your whole shop of everything you sell.
So let's do, and I think that's that copywriting element of being sure to focus on your skills of writing more compelling. But let's go ahead and do a little bit of the screen share where you can kind of show one of the newsletter formats, just so I think it would help to make this.
You want to see CNN side?
Yeah.
Because yesterday I showed both MailChimp and CNN.
So. Yeah, maybe how your content is structured so that you kind of see one, what your, what a business newsletter might look like.
Perfect.
Here,
in customized nutrition newsletters, we have this extensive database. Every month we add two new articles. So for January, our two new content articles were Fight the Winter Blues and Set Smart Goals. So if we go to, I should have gone to view. I'm sorry. Let me get back. I hit view. And you can see this, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Okay. You can preview every newsletter that we do, and everything's editable, to be honest. So when I created this, when I had the vision for this customized nutrition newsletters, I really wanted it to be as customized as possible for the practice. I know that dietitians are smart enough to write their own content. and I'm not trying to do that for them, but I also know the value in sending that newsletter out, staying connected, and that we don't have time to do it all.
Right. So kind of breaking this down, what we have is, obviously, there's a lot of talk about whether or not you should use, plain text email templates or, something with images. But in this case, you have kind of your logo, your brand, at the top, something identifiable. And then you have value. You have you have an introduction here, basically.
And so you have an introduction.
Something
and then
personal.
Order your newsletter. In MailChimp side, you actually can make edits.
Right.
And you can add your signature. And obviously, it's not going to be my picture on your newsletter. It's going to be.
But if we just talk, more globally about, if someone was building out their own email newsletter, kind of sometimes it's hard. You sit down in the front of the screen and you're like, well, I'm not really sure what to include.
What to write.
Right. So kind of an introduction or a little, this, and then and value, right?
You can actually, you don't have to have your picture. If you don't want your picture in the intro, we have an option that you can customize that. So just as a side note.
Yeah.
Then you add the main nutrition topic. So this is giving your value, showcasing. There's a few goals I have with this. I want it to showcase your expertise. Also, as a nutrition practice, I know most people, you want to show the variety of topics that you could help with.
Right.
Because people think, oh, I already saw her for some weight loss or some this, and that's all. But if you have a practice that you want to offer a few different things, showcase and write about it and talk about it, because that's how people are going to think of you when they're looking for that other service.
Right. So like a blog, if you blog, right?
And actually you can use our content on your blog with a copyright reference to CNN.
Okay.
So that is, once you build your newsletter, you can actually then even use it as your blog.
Okay.
So every thing has a main article. You have a mini article that kind of complements it. Then there's a featured recipe of the month. Here I have, this would be your product. So this is an optional box, to be honest. So if you don't have products you want to sell or promote, you can leave that box empty and it won't show up. But if you do have something, you can have that in there. So if you have a book you sell on a regular basis, you could just have that as a standing ad in your newsletter.
Got it. Okay.
There's also ways to customize and add news and events and other things like that. But that's like a standing kind of promotion you can do. And I can show you where you can.
Right. So this kind of gives people, just an idea of maybe what a newsletter, right? What a newsletter might look like. So kind of that personal connection, value, then maybe some information about your products. And so that doesn't have to be super overwhelming. I think sometimes we make things more complicated than they need to be. And that
and on customized nutrition newsletters, one of our goals for 2019 is I want to offer, I've offered this style of newsletter for the past almost 10 years, of meaning all that content. We want to offer almost a light version to where you just send one article.
Got it.
And so that's one of our goals. I just wanted to share that.
Yeah, that's awesome. I think it's I know it's, I happen to be technology. I'm going to switch back over to,
Let me stop share.
Yeah, we'll have you stop sharing, and I can only do a couple things at the same time. Heaven knows. I always think I could do more than one thing at a time, but I can't. So that, that we try to make a mountain out of a molehill, that getting over the hurdle of what to send to your list, that including, making a connection. It's a relationship. And then, like you said, that value, making sure that they know the types of things that you offer, but not necessarily in a salesy way, like the holiday winter blues. You're not saying like, hey, I have this program on X, Y, or Z. I mean, you wouldn't walk into a friend's living room and just be like, hey, it feels, people really don't want to be sold to necessarily, but if that connects with them, then they might click on the blog post, or they might, if you're maybe highlighting information that you have, or if you have a challenge coming up and maybe you feature that in your little box, that there's a challenge, you're providing all this value, and then, hey, there's a place for them to take action. Sign up for my challenge.
And for people who use this customized nutrition newsletters, you can, in that intro box, you can make a call to action. In the main article, you can add in call to actions. If that's a topic that relates to something you're selling, you can make in your own little call to actions.
Yeah, and just to kind of digest, I think most people know, like, call to action is, right, just something you want people to do. You want people to take action on your emails. You can do things as simple as adding, MailChimp is great. I use MailChimp, but most of them allow you to, click on a link or tell them to reply to you, having them do something and get kind of conditioned to click on your emails, so that when you do have a product that you are launching, they already often click when they open your emails, so that it does help with that clicking. So let's kind of do kind of that devil's advocate, and email newsletters, I don't know, they kind of sound old school per se, right? Where
email newsletters are dead.
Yeah, email newsletters are dead. Nobody opens them anymore. Why bother? And how do you, I guess for me, I look, and my email newsletters don't necessarily have the highest open rate, but what really surprises me is, because of the way that they're structured, they have an incredibly high click rate. Like, when people open them, they click through to different information, and yet it still drives a huge bump in traffic. It drives a huge, bump in sales, that clearly they're doing something for my business. So I don't believe that they're dead. I think there's a place for them, as well as kind of your automated campaigns, so that in a newsletter, when someone clicks on a product related to something, that kind of triggers something else to happen. And this is kind of advanced, but I personally don't believe email newsletters are dead. But what's your thoughts?
Back to what we said earlier, in the fact of the power of collecting their names and being able to communicate via email and get an invitation and personal in their inbox. That is something you are not going to get anywhere else. And so with social media, they can target ads to you, but it's not the same like one-on-one connections. And I don't know if anyone else feels like this, but I've had one big marketing guy, he's now sending me, and I know it's not him, I know it's some automated system series, but he's now sending me automate messages through Facebook. Has anyone else gotten that?
Yeah, there's Facebook Messenger bots.
Violating. What?
They're like the messenger bots, and they are, I don't know, I've done some reading on them. Personally, I don't know if it's my demographic that, I'm not a millennial. Facebook Messenger is not my thing, nor any social media messaging. So I think it's also good to know who your demographic is. I don't know. I don't like Facebook Messengers for businesses. Why
the e-newsletters are important, because again, you're going to have that list forever. You've got granted permission. With Facebook, if something happens, it's gone.
Right. This is very true.
You'll have that forever. And so you can always, that's one of the reasons we just need, I'm a firm believer in the power of just that touch point with marketing, email newsletters. I call it more newsletters. And newsletters do sound a little outdated.
They do.
But more of a touch point, more of a way to stay connected, stay, as we talked earlier, top of the mind.
Right. And I do think,
I personally love getting my newsletters from my dermatologist office and my hairdresser. And that's how I would ask everyone who's on this call to think about their business, and how do you appreciate getting touch points from the businesses you do business with.
Yeah, I don't remember who it was. It might have been Orly Wachter who was on here talking about, and also Whitney, about design ideas, kind of a design bank as well as a copy bank. I have a bank of emails that when I got from certain senders, one, the way they write them, and two, they feel like they're building a relationship with me. And I'll go back to those. And there's a question about kind of an onboarding sequence that, just like anything you do, whether it's you saved a graphic that you liked or a website that seemed to have really good navigation, when you get you're really enjoying emails you're getting from someone, stop and think about what it is in that. How are they doing that? You're probably going to find that they're adding a lot of value. They're, making your life better. They're speaking to some of your pain points. They're offering you solutions, and that they aren't necessarily just selling it to you, but maybe if there is a product that made sense, and maybe it was your dermatologist or your hair person, you got the product and it was great. So you really felt like they, added value for you. So it's
Absolutely. And I think, thinking on that note, thinking about when you work with your professional, whether it's your doctor or hair, I'm talking like someone that you go see privately, maybe for your hair. How does that person make you feel? Most likely, if you've been going back, for some reason you enjoy going back. So when you get their email in the inbox, it's not disruptive. It doesn't feel, because you already have that relationship with them. Right. And with your nutrition practice, you want that same type of relationship. You want someone to value and want to hear from you because they like working with you. And them getting your email newsletter makes them feel special because they actually see the person they're working with is sharing valuable content.
Right. I think that workflow, kind of getting back to some other guests that we've had on, talking about how to operationalize getting your newsletter written up. And that if you are setting a goal to write your newsletter monthly, that, for me, if you're going to blog, sometimes saying, okay, well, then I'm going to blog at least once a month. And if you're blogging weekly, you have a great value piece to put in your newsletter. But let's say you're starting out, going to blog once a month. And I think it was Chrissy Carroll who does, basically she writes her blog posts, then she writes all of her social media blurbs while they're fresh in her head, writing it for your newsletter, writing your Pinterest, so that while you're in that moment of writing that blog post, that you already have, I have it in the same Word document that I wrote. What am I going to put on Instagram? What am I going to put on Facebook? What am I going to put on, for my, actually, now schedule them out, but writing out what goes in the newsletter rather than sitting down and then having to re-pull that blog post up, rethink about the value. You're already in that moment. So adding that to your checklist of, value, or, if you're not blogging and you're just going to write a blurb for your newsletter, maybe doing it in batch content, or,
Absolutely.
writing a few at a time, or using a service like you have. So that works.
I love the notes section of the phone.
Yeah.
When ideas come to me, writing them, talking them out in your notes of like the ideas of things you want to write about.
Yeah. I do that same thing when I'm blogging, keyword research. I don't research each article. Like, I'm in the moment and I've researched 3 or 4 keywords, and I kind of outline out the blog post so that when I sit down to write it, I already have 3 or 4 of them kind of done. So similarly with that newsletter, looking back at, what do you have coming up? What are the blog posts that you're going to be writing about? Are those linked up with any promos that you're going to be doing? What time of the year is it? So that you're not, kind of scrambling, sitting down at the last minute going, gee, what should this newsletter be about? When you've kind of mapped out your year, mapped out what your goals are, then you kind of work backwards, right? Then the newsletters kind of follow.
And I actually have created a cheat sheet, a content planning cheat sheet on customized nutrition newsletters. It's my free download, but it's a 1-pager download that gives all the health and wellness topics for every month of the year on 1-page summary. So I know that in planning customized nutrition newsletters, and doing this for 10 years now, trying to create a variety of content, I've researched and looked up, and you can get gobs of like, this is this month. And that takes time to look at all that.
Right.
So what I did was it created a 1-pager that you can print out, put on your desk, and you can see the top 7 to 10 health, nutrition, and wellness awareness months for each month. That should spur some ideas for then what you to write about. So anyone can go download that. It's on the website.
Nice.
as a free download.
We'll try to link to that. So I have a question in here, and we've been talking a little bit about newsletters, but Melissa was asking about onboarding sequences, and I'm not sure if that's something you want to address, but how many emails to have in an onboarding sequence. We're kind of talking about the ongoing kind of monthly newsletters versus when someone first subscribes to your list, kind of a sequence versus
so
your newsletters.
for an onboarding sequence, what I've heard, read, talked with people, like 3 to 5 for that first series is a good series number. Mm-hmm. So your first one being, okay, they get the download, then you're sending a introduction, like kind of a quick little email reminding them about the download. Then your next one should be something, not a sale. The next one should be something that's adding value, that's related to that download. Maybe you're reminding them why they downloaded it, what they downloaded, but also giving another tip or pointer. Mm-hmm. Then your next one can be a little bit more, you expand maybe a few more tips or suggestions, but then start having a call to action.
Right.
And then you have another follow-up with 1 or 2 more. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Promoting what you do.
I think that's a whole nother topic for another, yes. interview and day, because I think there's a whole lot that can be done for your onboarding sequence.
Do you have something different or anything else to share on that?
Well, I would not say that I have it perfected. I have 9 in my onboarding sequence, and I don't.
Think it just varies.
It varies.
Yeah.
But I mapped it out.
Probably too little. Probably more like 5 is what I was.
Yeah, and I think the best advice I got was to really start with the end in mind. So at the end of the onboarding sequence, what do you want people to do? And if it's book a discovery call with you, great. If it's, what is that final point? And then kind of building that path. And so it helps to say, okay, well, we're going to have some value pieces. I went through 3 common mistakes, and there were, 3 emails. A lot of the psychology piece of making sure that, different emails, you might be coming from an emotion angle or a logic angle, because people make decisions differently. So there's a lot out there on that topic, but I think there is you could always just get started, and then you can modify it later on.
And with starting CNN, customized nutrition newsletters, I did it because I've heard from so many people, they were paralyzed to make a decision. Oh. And don't let the overwhelm of information, because it is a ton of information. And I have attempted to search other platforms besides MailChimp. MailChimp is a great platform. Mm-hmm. You can get into a time suck, downward spiral, researching all the different options there and trying them out and all of that. Find what works for you and go with it.
My thoughts on the matter, I've used, my thoughts on the matter, I use MailChimp, and personally, it's free up to 2,000 subscribers, which I'm not quite there yet. Getting close, but between my accounts. However, the features that it has, if you're starting out in business, it sends automated campaigns, it tags, it segments, it groups, it creates free landing pages. Why, when you could invest in so many other things, and the skills that you're building, those super advanced tools, you're probably not going to be there for a while.
Exactly.
But, if you want to, there's certainly other options out there, but I haven't found anything that MailChimp can't do for my business. I have my store connected. I know every single subscriber, what they've purchased, how much they've spent, which products, things, the amount of detail that I have on every single subscriber who's purchased this product, but not this product. It's very, very specific with, just by connecting my store to MailChimp, and I don't pay a dime for MailChimp. So, it's great for me.
So mine, I do pay, and the point, and I think, was it you that said this, and maybe something else, but you're going to pay with your business. Mm-hmm. There's expenses. Yeah. So you're going to hit a point that it's going to cost.
Right.
And so none of them, once you start paying MailChimp, it's pretty comparable to everything else that's out there. I have just personally experienced and observed a lot of people spend a lot of time wasting looking and trying to find more high-tech solution or something else. And MailChimp is a great
place to start. You could always change later on. You could export your
or you could save that time and money to
hire someone to write your onboarding sequence for you or something of that nature. I don't know.
Yeah.
So we are closing in on the last kind of 5-10 minutes here. So for those people who have some additional questions, I think as dietitians, we tend to want to have all the answers before we get started. And I think with the newsletter and email marketing, I wish we could call it email relationship building, email value giving, because I think when you put that marketing word in there, you sit down in front of your computer and you put on this hat that feels very uncomfortable, that you think, I'm not a marketing person, I don't really sell. And you write an email that feels like the one that you were mentioning where you got all salesy and you got all these unsubscribes. I've had that same reaction when I do like really promotionally emails. I'm like, ugh, that didn't feel good. That you don't have to do that. Just because it says email marketing, that isn't what it's about. It's about building that relationship. And a newsletter, like you said, allows you to stay top of mind. If you've written a blog post, great, you can promote it. And some of that value is, especially if you're a blogger and maybe you aren't selling things one-to-one, that just drives traffic right back to your website, which then, gets your page views. They might click on other things that you have. Or you're just writing a blurb, or you're using content from a tool like customized nutrition newsletters, that you're providing something of value, giving them a call to action. And I think you can overcomplicate the call to action. Like there's like 12 different things for people to do in a newsletter. And I think I'm very guilty of this. I try to pack so much in there that it's really, honestly, I should just break my newsletter into weekly, because there's so much in the monthly newsletter that it's just overwhelming. And so I think thinking through the experiences people read it, if it's too much, but they're just getting started and giving people something to do, whether it's respond to you. And that, to me, when I started thinking of it like in a living room, I don't like being particularly personal. I'm a little bit of a private person, but the response when I started to open up a little bit more and share some of personal things, I'm like, nobody really wants to know that about me. The number of responses that I got and the connections that I make, and people who would just like message me on social media that I'm a real person. I'm in the living room of somebody and we're talking and I say, hey, just click reply and tell me. And the people do. I was like, oh, that you're not sitting down to email a list. You're sitting down to email a person who came to your website and said, I like you. I like what you have and I want to hear from you. So send them a message, come into their living room and give them the value that you offer as a dietitian and your expertise. They want to hear from you. And if they don't, they'll unsubscribe and that's okay.
Absolutely.
They will.
And with a private practice, like if that's your niche, your people who come in your office, they want to hear from you.
They do.
They need to hear from you. They need to know that you are their go-to nutrition expert. They need to know that you are there, that you can answer all those questions that they get, because they're getting them and they're getting bombarded by their doctors and by their chiropractors and by their trainers and by everyone else out on the street. And you can be their go-to person, but you will have to establish however you choose to do it, touch points.
Right.
So that when their life gets busy, they remember to come back to you.
Right. So I think, more than anything, perhaps this becoming more of a pep talk, but also some, tools that, we haven't talked a ton about resources. We talked about MailChimp. We talked about customized nutrition newsletters, but other things that you turn to, there's also, the Academy has these little kind of helpful nutrition articles that, you could write a few sentences and then send a link. If you're not creating your own content because you're not a blogger, but you want to provide value so that when they think of nutrition, they think of you, that you can still link to other people's things.
You could link to other people's recipes.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So yes, you can definitely do it that way as well. You are bringing people outside of your site by doing that.
Mm-hmm.
But just to get started, if you are stuck on content, and you're not ready to try customized nutrition newsletters, you can
Right.
try that.
And to just start, I said before, my first newsletter to the RD to RD community was just to 60 people. And it probably, took me way more time. But the content hasn't changed. Whether you're emailing 60 people or 6,000 people, you still have to, I'm so glad, because I look back at those early newsletters. If you wait too long, then you have all of these people, right? No. But that ultimately just get started, and don't be hung up on what email. Should I use ConvertKit? Should I use ActiveCampaign? Should I use MailChimp? Should I use, I can't even think of the other, Constant Contact, MailerLite. There's a million. I feel like it's like sitting, if you were going to, I just went on vacation, Hertz car rental. I'm a Hertz Gold member. It's the pick any car in the aisle and go. It's like if I had sat in that aisle for 3 hours, complete indecision. They have 4 wheels. They have a gas pedal. They are cars. There's a trunk. Just get in one and drive. Just go. Just get started. Okay. It's like the pick. Yeah. It's like the pick your car and go. Just go. Just get going. I think it's been a lot of fun. So for people who want to learn more about you, and this service, Customized Nutrition Newsletters, is a service that dietitians who, I'm sure other dietitians who don't want to have to create their own content and figure out how to go in MailChimp and create all your templates. It's basically in a matter of minutes. You just drag in the content, add your stuff, and click send.
With your sign up, I do a one-on-one training call. And I don't have this link up, but I am going to get it somehow to everyone who's on the call. So if we can get this, can we get a link to?
Yeah, you just send me a link. I'll include it.
Okay. It'll be the special will only be good for this group. It'll be 3 months of customized nutrition newsletter service for $99. So it's like a good starter pack. During that, will get that one-on-one to where I'll go in and help you set up your account and show you the basics to get started with MailChimp. So I'll send you that link.
Perfect.
And it's a great way to get started. You're not making any commitments after that. Hopefully you'll love it and you'll keep going. But
thank you for offering something special for the RD community. That's awesome. Yeah. And I've talked to different people about email marketing and their social media and Instagram and IGTV. And the reality is that, email isn't going anywhere. Your email list and email, it's not going anywhere. So, continuing to, yes, you need an opt-in, but you also need a way to continue to nurture that relationship once they, sign up. And as your business grows, early on, you might be doing a lot of marketing, but then now you have more clients coming in, and then maybe your email communication drops off, right? But how can you continue to build that, relationship and be in their inbox without having to spend a lot of time on it? So those are some different options.
Yeah.
Awesome.
So thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, I'm going to take a quick look here and make sure we answered, everybody's questions. And let's see here. Yes, people, thank you. People are feeling inspired to start doing nutrition newsletters.
Awesome.
Yay. Thank you so much, Yvette, and I'm so glad we connected.
Yes.
We will be, RD Live will be back in 2 weeks, and we will be interviewing Monica, I think it's Salafia. I haven't asked her how to say her last name, but Fitness Dietitian 101. So I know kind of new. She has really started to put together tools and resources for dietitians working in health and, fitness centers, fitness clubs, studios, from handouts to challenges to run to the progress notes she uses, intake forms, because she really wants dietitians to succeed in this area. So I'm super excited to talk with how she's built her business, and she'll have tips for dietitians how do I get in with a fit club, fitness center? How do I, what value would I want to offer? So it's going to be a lot of fun.
All right.
Yay. So thanks again, everyone. And if you have any questions, just, for those of you who are catching it on replay, go ahead and drop them in the comments. I will tag Yvette and she can come back around and answer your questions. So if you missed the live, which I know many of you will, we will come back around and answer your question. So
awesome.
All right. Thanks again. And we'll get those links to both the freebie download with all of the months, as well as that special discount that you're offering. So thanks so much.
Thanks. Have a good day.
Yes, you too.
Bye.
Bye.